the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the debut episode of the Rangers Assessment here for season 2025-2026. I'm Scotland Pike. It is always a pleasure to be your host. And for those who didn't know, Russell Martin is the new Rangers manager. I should point out at the start, if you haven't been following it, then there's the news for you. To join me to go through the first episode of the season and to preview Panathinaikos, discuss a very busy summer, it is a pleasure to welcome Scott Young.
Yes, it was a pleasure, mate. I was actually thinking about this before I came on. First time in what? I'd say at least 2, 3 years. There's a smidge of positivity around Rangers Football Club.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to start with, because for those who maybe didn't see our season review around about kind of May time, I think maybe the start of June, I think we did it. Round about the point, it seemed to be it was either going to be Russell Martin or David Ancelotti. I think we were firmly in the Ancelotti camp for the kind of reason that we're maybe going to get into in terms of like how Martin's style of play will maybe work out. But I've got to be honest, and I'm not just saying this because Martin's in. I think you're off your head if you're not wanting to be positive about the appointment and not looking for the positives and certain things that he's come across. Certainly the kind of way he's speaking, I find really kind of enthusiastic. I think I'm now at a stage where I've gotten it. I understand that the board, the new guys, are not giving into pressure, which we would have seen previously, and they've went with their guy. And yes, there is concerns. I think we all have them, but I'm really excited of how this is going to go.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they've done I think they've been very clever with it so far because I think they know the opinion around Russell Martin and the appointment wasn't the most positive. So I think they've chucked him out doing as many interviews, doing as many press conferences as they can. And to be fair to them, I think it's worked. Like a lot of I like the way he speaks. I think he speaks very well from a like some of Clement's pressers I couldn't listen to. A lot of Beale's stuff I couldn't listen to. Even the last Rangers match I was able to listen to properly and sort of getting what he was saying with Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
And he left but 4 years ago. Since then with Beale and Clement, Barry to a lesser extent. And a lot of the stuff I'd listen to because what are you talking about? But with Clement, no, sorry, not Clement. With Martin, I'm enjoying his sort of PR spin and PR run that he's doing at the moment, trying to win the fans over. And to be fair to him, I think it's based on the sort of small circle Rangers fans. I'm not on Rangers Twitter anymore. Couldn't deal with it. So, but a small portion of fans like family and group chats and stuff. I his sort of PR run that he's on with interviews and stuff has turned a lot of them.
And there's two reasons for that. First of all, he's a good speaker, which Clement certainly wasn't. And I get, obviously, it's maybe a language thing, but Martin is very good, believes in what he says. I think it's more important as well. I don't think he's saying stuff that's been kind of fed to him. I think it comes from. I've listened to a lot of Russell Martin interviews over the past couple of months, and he doesn't break in what he's saying. It is the same approach, and that's what I like about it. It's not one week to the next; it's a different thing. The issue we've got though is, and I'm going to just be honest, the issue we've got here is, and for those who don't know, me and Scott do a Premier League show. We've spoken about Russell Martin quite a lot, and the concerns that we have of Russell Martin are well documented in that. You have to adapt, and you have to get the players, and we'll touch on the friendly and maybe some other things we've heard over the summer. But the reason he didn't last in the Premier League is because he couldn't adapt. That has to be something he has to fix at Rangers. He has to be. We'll get a better idea on Tuesday night, obviously, but you have to see a different approach. You have to see him do a different thing against Celtic than he would against Dundee. Like that has to be the way forward. That's where successful Rangers managers go. And I'm just going to point out here, Clement was sacked because He played 5 games over Christmas, won one of them, and that was a Celtic game. That's the reason Philip Clement didn't last, is because you can't do that and expect to be the Rangers manager. So that's Russell Martin's big thing. And I think it does help to a degree that he's been there as a player. Now, that was a big concern of mine, of not being particularly a good player. And then you listen to his interview where he basically just kind of shoots down his own playing career and says, I wasn't a very good player, I kind of overachieved. And you're like, he kind of says he wanted to be a coach from the start. So you kind of know now, kind of listening to him, and certainly the players he's brought in as well, which we'll get into, he is a guy who has a certain managerial style. He has a philosophy, and that's something Rangers haven't had probably since Gerrard. Because I wouldn't say Beale, certainly Beale's issue is that he thought he had a style that didn't work, and then he didn't know how to fix it. Clement, I don't think, really did either. We can't say that Martin doesn't, because we've seen it. We've seen it with Southampton. We've seen it with Swansea. We know what he wants to do. It's just, can he do it?
Yeah, and that's sort of where I'm at in terms of like his style of play. But I also think like obviously I'm being a bit hypocritical because I judged him on his Southampton run, and I think it's difficult not to judge someone based on the most recent thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I always go back to when it comes to judging a manager is Eddie Howe. Pete, when he got that Newcastle job, I was like, no shit about this. Defensive at Bournemouth, it was really, really bad. And he changed it when he was away. Obviously, he was out the game a lot longer than Martin was, so don't know if Martin had that opportunity to change as much as Howe did. But Howe went from the worst defensive manager in the league, the best defensive manager in the league in Newcastle, in what, a year or two?
Yeah.
He was out the game for. So it is possible for a manager to change. Unai Emery's another one. Obviously, Unai Emery's a top coach, but it is possible for managers to do badly in one club, go away, and show how much they've improved. I think Martin knows he has to improve. So on Monday Night Football, he spoke very well about what he done wrong and what he can change. He talk about like stuff like dark arts. He also mentioned that in his Club Bruce presser about when players can foul players or be a
Yeah.
bit more dirty, which I think Rangers have needed for ages,
Mm-hmm.
from personality wise and tactic wise. So obviously the proof will be in the pudding when it comes to the Panathinaikos game, but I think there is scope from other manager examples that he can change from one game to another or one club to another.
We're going to get a better understanding Tuesday night. I think as well, you mentioned about the kind of positivity around about the summer. Like, the difference for this summer to last summer is almost stratospheric. Like, last summer, there was absolutely no buzz. And you're kind of going into this summer with the feeling of, if, like, I remember we were talking about it, if Rangers don't win, if Martin gets the job and Rangers don't get through the first couple of Champions League rounds, will there be pressure on Martin? I think I don't necessarily think there will be, if they can see something. I think that was the issue with Clement. It was what's really different here. And I get Clement didn't get the players he wanted. I get that, and it's well documented. I think the club behind the scenes are a lot different now than they were then. But if Rangers fans can see something, I think getting through Panathinaikos will certainly help it, even if they don't get through next one, because the guarantee of Europe's there. I think this potential, not getting through this round and then having to play a potential qualifier unseeded, could potentially be a wee bit of a kind of issue. Although I don't think a lot of people are sitting thinking Europe is an absolute priority compared to what it's been in previous years, because the league is so important, and you are at a stage where I don't think a lot is expected in terms of winning. I don't think the board are expecting Martin to win the league in his first season, but they're certainly it can't be done after 4 games, which has been the case for 3 out of the last 4 years.
Yep.
That's kind of it. So I think, as you say, the proof will be in the pudding. It depends as well on, obviously, recruitment. I think recruitment so far, I've been pretty excited with it. One thing I have been very interested in is the fact that pretty much all the targets have been pretty quiet up until they actually get announced. There's only about 48 hours between you first hearing a name and then them signing. That's a lot different to back in the day where it was about 4 months between a player getting announced before they were first mentioned. So there's a difference in terms of the way the club are going about their business. Like Rothwell were a perfect example. He was out of contract in the 30th and I think signed in the second.
Yeah.
That's
Fernandez is
great.
the one that comes to mind. There was
Fernandez
hardly
as
any
well.
links for that, and he was
Yeah,
signed the same day
yeah.
as Rothwell, I'm pretty sure. Aye.
What do you think of the business so far? Like, Aaron's, I think, obviously a really shrewd bit of business for the loan. Giga, the same. Rothwell, I think, is more a Martin midfielder who wants to be that kind of anchor in the kind of sixth position. I think that would be quite an important position. Uh, we'll obviously see Asgard, I think. With Doink, we'll maybe see Asgard on Tuesday. Gisama's an interesting one, and you mentioned Fernandez. Like, so far, six. I don't think it's going to stop. I think there will be two kind of split windows. I think you'll have before Panathinaikos, and then you'll maybe see a splurge once players get sold and moved on. And I think, right, I mean, there's not a bit of business I've looked at and think, no, I don't get that. I think everything's been like, yeah, that is a definite position that needs strengthened.
I think the business you've sort of covered all the positives, but Rangers they all came from England, right? All every single side
I
came
think
from
so, yeah.
England.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, Martin knows that market very well. He managed MK Dons, managed at Swansea, played most of his career in England. Imagine Southampton, obviously, as we mentioned. So he's shopping a market that he knows, but also Rangers historically shopping from England has never been the most. Has never got the best results. Oh, you could go for years. Todd Cantwell, Ben Davies, Tom Lawrence, Kieran Dowell. Just some players,
But
there's
you just
probably a
look at the
million more.
profile of the new players, like,
Yeah,
they fit
but
a certain profile, whereas the last ones just didn't fit. They just didn't. You looked at them and thought
yeah,
they're either an agent or just try to just get in the bargain bin because that's what it felt like. And now I'm like,
that's what I was getting on to. Obviously, it's just shopping from England, which hasn't obviously got the best results. But I feel like these are different signings to previous. A lot of the previous ones have been old men, old journeymen, who have sort of failed at every single club. Who sort of had one good spell 5 years ago, but didn't really do it after that. And then Rangers signed them. And we thought, oh, here we go. We're gonna get the player he was 5 years ago, and we just didn't get that. Prime example, as I mentioned, Todd Cantwell. The only one that sort of fits that mold is Aaron's, but he's 25. So I think there is something there, age wise.
he's also
I think
alone.
his belt improved. He's also at loan exactly, yeah. Although I think there might be some form of handshake obligation type thing. I don't think. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Anders is permanent Rangers player if he does well. I'll put it that way.
I mean,
But
the
the
one that
part,
probably interests me is probably Rothwell, and the reason for that is that yeah, he kind of fits the age type of what you're describing, but the manager knows him. The manager has basically said in the past few years, I really want to kind of build my teams around players like this. And Rothwell was coming off
I
a
always said right.
season last year, like a really good season.
I think we needed overall about 10 players.
Yeah,
I think just that's just numbers off the top of my head. I think two of them should be above 30. No more than two are above 30. Forget one. Been linked to a few, but not really seen anything for your Jamie Vardy's, your Luke de Jongs, your
I'd
Connor Cody.
imagine
None of them.
Cody. Cody seems to be the one that seems to be, I think, just
Yeah,
rubber stamp a
he's
couple
the
of
one that
things.
hasn't gone away, but also he's currently away with Leicester pre-season tour. So I don't know if that's gonna happen anymore. So I'd probably like one more sort of experienced head, and then you've got I would look at 6 or 7 23 to 28-year-old starters that will come in. We could sell some of them on for a profit, but come in and impact the team right now. And then then a couple of your 18 to 20-year-old project players like Agaman, Insiala, Jeff Day, that kind of player who were signed for nowhere, and we can build them up, train them here, and sell them on in a few years for stupid money.
Mhm.
And so far, we've got one 30-year-old in Rothwell, and the rest have sort of been to that 23, 28-year-old bracket of starting players who are ready to start now. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what we needed, especially for this European game, which is sort of snuck up on us.
Yeah, and that is the thing, and I was talking this in another pod during the week. Is this game perhaps coming too early? There is a little bit of that. I think, like, if you're starting a game in July with a completely new setup, and we've been talking for the past few years about a rebuild, those haven't been rebuilds because the philosophy hasn't been there. And I think Gassama's a perfect example of that. And yes, it took a bit of time because kind of what Sheffield Wednesday are kind of struggling with. Gassama represents an issue that's been there for a long, long time. Rangers have had absolutely no pace and no width. And then you look at the likes of Fernandez, Giga to a degree, like even Aarons, who I think is quite physical. There's absolutely very little physicality in that Rangers team. That's been an issue. Like, I think with players like Diamandi as well, I don't think we would say Diamandi's overly physical, but the thought of
No,
kind of what Martin wants his midfielders to do, you look at Diamandi and think you can do that, and we saw that against Bruges for the second goal. The way he just takes the ball in the turn is something that you can tell Diamandi wants to do, and I kind of want to see Rangers. I don't want to see like yes, the way the kind of club is at the moment is there's not enough players for a squad. The lack of players being fit over the years, you know how much I've went to town on that over the years. That's been an issue. I want to see players playing, not having to play Thursday, Sunday. I want to see a different. That was one of the reasons why I think the 55 season was so successful. You could play Morelos on a Thursday night and then you would have Defoe on the Sunday. You haven't been able to do that. One, because this kind of sub players haven't been good enough, or they've not been fit. And I think you will need to see an improvement in fitness, and you will need to see an improvement in the level of player. Like there needs to be, you can't have a number one option and then second or third coming in. Curtis is another example of that. I don't think we're expecting Curtis to play 30, 40 games, but I think Finlay Curtis can play a part.
yeah.
Like,
Jeffrey's the main one when it comes to that.
yeah,
Because I've seen a lot of folk write Jeffrey off. And to be fair, he was pretty bad last season on the whole.
he's
But
yeah,
he played far too many games last season compared to what the plan was. He should have got similar minutes to Inciala and Agaman. But it's two left back competition have a half a hammy between them and
yeah.
Yilmaz and Sterling.
That's
So
the issue.
Jeffrey had to play as much as they did.
Yeah,
And he got overexposed and he was pretty bad for the most part. So I think we'll get on to where we need to sign next, and left back's top of my list. But when it comes when it comes to players, I think you hit the nail on the head. When it comes to you need the second string needs to be as good as first. Like I think the midfield area is the strongest it's been in a while.
mm-hmm.
Look at our midfield options at the moment. Maybe some go, some sell, whatever else. Raskin, I'm gonna miss someone. Raskin, Diamandi, Cameron, Barron, Rothwell, Asgard, Barami. Probably missing someone off the top of my head,
No,
but
yeah, plus four. Rice.
that's a decent Rice. Rice is the one I'm missing. Yeah, I think Jigga can play middle of the park as well if we need him to. So that's a good core of
Yeah,
midfielders. That if you take one of them out, you could bring in. If you take Rashkin out, you bring in Diamandi. Take Rothwell out, bring in Barami. I think that's a very good core of midfielders, and I think we need that all over the park. And I think centre half should be next in that priority list.
yeah. Well, priority list. I think midfield's pretty fine. Like I was pleasantly surprised with Bayrami against Club Brugge. I was going to say Queen's Park there for some reason. I wasn't impressed with him against Queen's Park.
PTSD.
It was dire.
PTSD.
But like Bayrami's another interesting one as well. Like a lot of people wrote him off, but it wasn't a case. I don't. I think we saw enough in kind of glimpses to say with the right structure, with the right manager, he can work. And it's again like, and again, I'll maybe throw Dowell into this as well and see what you think. I'm not necessarily writing a lot of players off. There's players who I don't think have a future, and we'll get into them as well. Like Dowell, yes, there's been issues, but I'm not looking at him going. Clearly, I do think Dowell will start on Tuesday night, mainly because I don't think there's anything else on that right side. But I'm not necessarily sure. Like I would write players off. I mean, a good example with Celtic was Ryan Christie. Nowhere near the Celtic team before Rodgers came in, and then you look at him and think when Rodgers took him in, he just tweaked something. I'm not saying Kieran Dowell was going to go on and be like that. What I'm saying is though, there is maybe players there because Rangers, the squad is absolutely bloated just now.
Yeah.
But there's maybe one or two you could look at just going with a bit of better structure. The man management, I think, is important as well. A lot of Russell Martin players have spoke about how good he is as a man manager. That can sometimes be all it needs. And I think we will be able to see that. Cortez and Danilo, I'm going to say for a minute because I think they're a different level. I think they're different in terms of that regard. But if you look at Dowell and Bayrami, I'm not necessarily sure I'm completely writing them off yet.
Got more faith in Barami than I have
Yeah,
Dowell,
yeah,
purely off the basis of Kieran Dowell's injury record
yeah.
has never been good. If it
No,
wasn't
it's
good in
not.
Norwich, been worse at Rangers. And also, Barami, last season, Barami was very unlucky that he had bad managers
Yeah,
because he get played out of position pretty much all season. He's not a
played.
left winger,
No, he's not.
never really been a left winger. And it's mental that he's played. Yeah, I think he had two good games for us last season: the cup final, the game we get beaten Paris, and the 3-0 Ibrox. And where did he play in those two games? Middle of the park. It's rocket science. You play a player in his position, and he plays better than he would out of position. But he was played out of position to accommodate Yanis Hadji because I was kicking off about Hadji and his contract and all that, and Clement finally sorted it. And thought, right, I need to play this boy, so we need to. Also, I think it was very unfair. I think he was signed because Clement made an arse of it in the presser the week before when Clement went, we will sign more players than we sell. And if we get to deadline day, crap, we've not signed anyone. We need to sign this boy just to appease the fans and to make our manager not look like a complete idiot.
But that
So I
again,
think
that
that's
isn't
the reason he was signed.
that
It
isn't
was
happening now.
no, it was a panic signing because of Clement in the presser. And now I'm very optimistic about him. I personally don't think Dow will start. I think our front three will be Curtis, Danilo, Cortez
Okay,
as opposed
save
to
that.
Dow.
Part that just now.
Part of
Uh,
that. But I think with Dow, I'll just touch on Dow slightly. I should be Kieran Dow. This is going to sound really harsh, but I don't know what does Kieran Dow add to a team? If we're being completely honest, I don't think he's very creative. He's no fast. He's not a great finisher. So where does he play and what does he do? So he's not quick enough to be a winger. He's not a great enough passer to be a 10. He's not a good enough finisher to be sort of a false 9. And I don't think he's physical enough to play any deeper. So I'm struggling to see what do you do what is Kieran Dow?
what is Kieran Dowell? That's a perfectly adequate question, and that again knows what I'm kind of getting at is Russell Martin maybe knows what he wants with Kieran Dowell, and that's why I wouldn't be writing him off yet because he might be seeing something in Kieran Dowell that we aren't seeing, and see that's like completely writing a player off until like I'm not for that. I'm not saying if a bid doesn't come in for Kieran Dowell tomorrow, I'm not like take it and get him shipped on. I'm not like that desperate to keep him, but I'm not completely ruling out. There's players like we'll get into. I mean, let's just get into it just now. Like players like Ben Davies, Rabbi Matondo, Cifuentes. I don't want to see them ever again because I've seen enough. Like the Cifuentes signing will completely baffle me because that was about a 4 month chase for then
Yeah.
within 2 months to come in and say he didn't want to play in cold weather. Like it's things like that that make me just completely mesmerised of how bad a football club Rangers were up until this summer because they were being run like a seven-a-side amateur team. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's the sort of thing that can't happen in modern day. And like proper, obviously, we know they kind of wage things a bit of a circus, and I do think that will eventually get resolved. But there's clearly players at the club just now who aren't going to be there at the start of September. Like
Yeah.
Yilmaz, another example. Yilmaz, I think we've all just kind of. There's only so much you can. There's only so many
You're
times you
giving
can
up.
say if he's fit. There's
Yeah.
only so many
I'm
times you can
sick.
do that.
That should be our tag. That should be our
Yeah,
sort of tagline for last 3 years if he's fit.
and you mentioned about left back. I don't think Jetty's ready to be an out and out first choice.
No, no.
But I'm also like there is a little bit same way like Inciala's maybe another one, right? I don't think Inciala was anywhere near ready to be doing what he was doing last season. And I mean, like if he does leave in the summer, that Kilmarnock game will probably be his memory, trying to like shake Barry's hand, and Barry's like, what is it? What is this kind of thing? That
Yeah,
wasn't Inciala's fault. That was the state the club was in, and the
yeah.
state. I mean, the medical team's the biggest issue for me because it doesn't matter if you've got a 25-man squad if only 16 of them are fit. There's
No
no
point.
point. Yeah, there's
Aye.
not. And I do think it depends on a better kind of level of player. Goalkeeper's an interesting one, and I know I'm kind of flipping about a wee bit here because we kind of spoke about this privately a couple of weeks ago. Butland and Kelly to get like as a 1-2, I'm okay with, right? And I don't think a lot of people will be like raging if Rangers get into the start of the season with Butland and Kelly as a first and second option. However, I think Russell Martin has probably went in with that same approach, and we know what Russell Martin goalkeepers need to do. And I think he's took one look, maybe a couple of weeks to look at them and go, I'm not necessarily sure they're going to be able to do what I want them to do. I'm not saying that that's not inside information. That's just what I'm assuming. With the goalkeeper that was linked from Brighton, you read about him, his main area of expertise is playing with the ball at his feet. The same with the boy for Sheffield Wednesday. That there seems to be a theme in who Rangers were targeting as a goalkeeper. It's a difficult one though because I'm not necessarily sure I'm fine with Jack Butland. I think Jack Butland just had a bad season. I don't think Liam Kelly's a bad goalkeeper, but if they don't fit what Martin's trying to do, then there needs to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, it depends what Martin wants. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a very fascinating thing, and probably something we'll learn a bit more on Tuesday. I think Butland will play, but I'm more intrigued with what he does with his feet than anybody else, to be honest. Because I think that we know how important that position is for a Russell Martin team.
Yeah. I don't think it's like exclusively a Russell Martin team. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
I think it's a league winning team.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you want a team to win the league, you need a top keeper. But goalkeeper is I think it's generally the most interesting things going into the season is what he did between the sticks. What I would do, I would give Butler the Panathinaikos games. But if I'm Russell Martin, I'm saying to Thelwell, get me a list of keepers just to be on the safe side. If he doesn't, it's less so the ball at his feet because the ball at his feet wasn't his main issue last season. It's like couldn't he save
Yeah,
anything?
but I'm not. I've never
Like
looked at Butland and thought like, oh, he like. I've never really noticed it with Butland. Like, I've never, and
no,
that
his
again
ball.
gets down to style of
I've never
play.
really
Like,
noticed the ball at his feet being
no,
an issue. I
I've not
noticed it a
either.
lot with Alan McGregor in his latter years,
Yeah, yeah,
but I've never noticed it with Butland. It was more the fact that he couldn't save anything and he couldn't catch anything. Everything get palmed out everywhere, and he couldn't punch across. That was the main issue with Butland. But I was more. I think with Butland, it was very difficult because the centre halves in front of him kept changing last season.
yeah, yeah.
It was Suter and Balogun, Prop on Suter, Prop on Balogun. Sterling was in there, Tav was in there. I think me and you played centre half one game. Every game, centre half change, and that's very difficult for a goalkeeper. But on the other hand, I don't know if I'm making too many excuses. So I don't know if centre halves mean you're not able to catch a ball. So, but right now, I think we've got a lot bigger issues than a goalkeeper. And the four in front of him is more of an issue than the goalkeeper
Yeah,
right now, in my opinion.
that definitely needs addressed. Left back, I think, is an important position. I wouldn't be surprised if Aarons plays there for a bit in
Yeah.
Tavernier. Well, again, Tavernier we've done to death, and we'll probably continue to do it to death over the next few weeks. But
It also depends how Martin plays with his fullback. Because we
yeah,
all know he historically, it's the inverted fullback is what he likes to use. Used it at Southampton, Swansea, and MK Dons. That's super. I didn't really watch the MK Don team. I think Tav would actually be okay as an inverted fullback. I think Tav's still pretty technically sound.
mm-hmm.
It's his legs have gone. He can't get up and down. I don't think I felt. I think he'd actually be okay because I don't think he can. I don't think inverted fullbacks are needed to get up and down the wing the full time. It's the other side. You have to. I can't say you have to be an inverted
I don't
fullback.
think I wouldn't be surprised if Aarons plays first couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens with a new left back. The other position I wanted to touch on was striker because I think Danilo's an interesting one because I don't think he's a woeful footballer. It's just injuries. It's just been injuries,
Yeah.
and at times, maybe like what's the word I'm looking for? Like
The title of this pod.
conditioning is probably the best word to describe it. Like I think at times he's came back from injury and he's not looked the most football shape, I think is the best word
Yeah.
to put it. And but you can't deny in pre-season, I think for all reports he's done pretty well. And let's not forget he's a £5.5 million player. He's not a donkey.
No.
It's more the other two I think I'm fascinated with. Where are we at with Agaman and Dessers? Because I don't think both of them will be here. If you were to give me the choice, I would sell Dessers tomorrow. I would, if you can get Dessers sold for £4.5 million and keep Igaman. I think keeping Igaman, for example, and get another year out of him, and you could maybe sell him for a bit more. Now, obviously, you've got the risk of injuries, which we know, but I don't think you're getting that money for Dessers next season.
Now, you know my opinion on Cyril Dessers. I would sell him tomorrow if I could. When that 80k Athens bid came in, I was like, don't care much. Apparently, we rejected a bid because it wasn't anywhere near evaluation. I'd have just accepted any form of money for that boy and just get rid of him.
Yeah.
I think we sat on this. I'm going to go somewhere with this. We sat in this pod and slaughtered Borna Barisic purely off one game, and that was Celtic away when Leila Bada ripped the arse out of him, and we both said sure his contract torn up after that game. When Cyril Dessers, when you're a centre forward in a cup final penalty shootout, and you're sitting there, and a left back, a goalkeeper take a penalty ahead of you, and he's sitting there, probably didn't complain about it at all. I think he should have his contract ripped up after that cup final because I think that's an embarrassment that you're a centre forward and you don't take a penalty in a penalty shootout. And since that game, I gave up on Dessers. For top goal scoring league, I don't care. Rangers centre forwards should take penalties and penalty shootout cup finals, especially against Celtic. Like if you think any centre forward we've had over the last, even I'm not talking your Boyds, your McCoists, someone like Cholak. Cholak has a penalty. So even Dashville probably has a penalty. Kuzan probably has a penalty. These aren't your top Rangers centre forwards. These are just odd, good, half decent players.
Kevin Kyle,
And they all
Francis
hit
Daza,
penalties.
they hit a penalty.
Aye,
I
exactly.
think you're getting at something interesting there though, because you mentioned he was top goal scorer in the league last season, but again, his chance conversion just isn't enough for me.
No.
It's
Rangers Football Club will never win a league title with Cyril Dessers your first choice centre forward.
I am
And
of
I
the
think that's a
opinion.
fact.
I am of the opinion though, if you can get £4.5 million, let's just say £4.5 million, and you can get the boy from Israel round about that price, I think that's amazing business.
Yes.
Or a player of that age and profile. If you can do that, that's amazing business. Agaman though, I think there's way more to come from Agaman, but I'm also like, if he wants to go, I'm okay with it too. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there's definitely a lot more to come. Like if Rangers don't, if it's 15 million or whatever it is, and Rangers get it, I think that represents a good bit of business. But you've also got the potential of he has another season, he gets played in his position a lot more, which is another thing, and you could double that next season. And
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I don't think Dessers and Igaman will start. I think Danilo's got that wrapped up, but
yeah.
they're also like Igaman. I think is a really interesting one, and one that maybe represents a change at the club, because 12 months ago that money's pocketed, and a new bar's opened at Ibrox or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? That's exactly what
I
we're dealing
think
with here. This club aren't in a rush to sell as much. Even with asking, like they're not majorly rushing to sell their assets anymore.
you kind of touched on this when you talk about the bloated squad. It's almost a sign of the times that our squad is that big. Because in the past, we have had to sell to buy.
Yeah,
But we're not in that position where we can just buy before we sell players. And so we're not, so we have players for the Panathinaikos game. The fact our squad's big shows that we haven't sold anyone. And yet we've still been able to we have to sign 7, 8 players. And that shows a positive sign that we are looking to the future more in terms of get players now, train them in the thing. I think it's like 7 or 8 have been put in a cell camp with the training ground, but they just train themselves. And to me, that shows that we are financially sound in that aspect.
and more modern, and a more
Yeah,
modern approach. Like, for example, I mean, obviously the chat was Yanis Hadji coming back, and I'm like, I don't understand why that's even been mentioned, and I don't think
that's
that is
like
just.
his agent couldn't find him a club more than
I think
not,
that's
not
probably
ours.
what it is, but like I'm just running through kind of players that I think won't be here proper. I think absolutely Dessers, I think will go. Cifuentes, Matondo, you know my opinion on that. And Ciala, I wouldn't be against. I said this last season. I wouldn't be against putting him out on loan to a Kelly or a
Yeah,
Motherwell or something. Let him learn the Scottish game. we've seen it with Ayer at Celtic. If they come back a far better player, what's the disadvantage to Rangers? Dill, I think, probably still goes. Davies was the one I was like, could Martin see something in him? But I think
Clear up.
that sends a wrong message. Yilmaz, McCausland,
King.
King, yeah, like that. Those are kind of 8 players, and you're not going to get buttons for them. Do you know what I mean? You're not going
No.
to get you're going to get a good few million quid, not for each player, but you're going to get a. I would
Probably looking
personally,
at about 8 million for the lot.
yeah, maybe, and again, that's what I'm saying about the two windows thing. Like 8 million quid, and if you can reinvest that between now and the end of the window, I think the loan market's there to be used. I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe 2 or 3 loans again. And I'm not totally against it. I don't understand this approach of, why are we loaning players in for a season just to big up somebody else's player? The loan market is there to be used. Rangers need to have a squad in place to win now. Right? I'm not saying win the league, but I'm saying be better. Be better this season in terms of league. If you can get 2 or 3 loan players that can make the difference in that you might not have an option to buy, just do it because you can't. That's kind of the way football works now.
The one position I wouldn't loan is a goalkeeper.
No, I wouldn't loan a goalkeeper either.
Because that was the Brighton boy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He
Unsworth or
was linked
something.
to something like that. He was alone. We were linked with him on loan, and I think I'm sending it to you, message to you at the time. That's the one position I won't have a loan as a goalkeeper. The goalkeeper has to be permanent for the next 2 or 3 years. You need to have a permanent number one in there, and then build the team around that. Yeah, I can't have a lone goalkeeper because it's never really worked out for the buying club as a keeper on loan.
I don't think we'll see any additions between now and the end of the Panathinaikos game unless something kind of moves tomorrow, which I really doubt.
Ian Garner's the only name that sort of hasn't really
That
gone
that was
away.
mentioned as well. There was another one for Hull, was it Kamara? I think was linked as well, but I think that depends on their position to sell
Yeah.
or something like that. But I don't think there'll be any additions. That leads us on to Tuesday night, Panathinaikos, first leg of the Champions League qualifier, 22nd of July, which is ridiculous. And you know my opinion on early games like that. Where are we at with the team? Because is there any positions that I'm wondering that what are going to change? I think forwards are probably the ones we're going to disagree on, but I think back four, back five, I think we're pretty much Butland, Tav,
Back,
Giga, Suter,
back.
Aarons.
Yeah, I was toying with the idea of Butland, Aarons, Suter, Tav, Jigger. Because this is an important. Tav is centre half isn't as bad as it sounds. Because obviously, folks like he's not been able to defend for 8 years, which kind of true,
And who you
kind
got
of
at left
not.
back? Giga.
Jigger left back, yeah, he has played left back. He can play, and if you're doing an inverted fullback, I think he might be a better option. I think it will be yours. I think it will be yours. What you said. I think it will be Tav, Suter, Jigger, Aarons. But Tav came on centre half against Club Brugge and were by far a better team in the second half.
Yeah,
Night and day from that first half.
yeah.
And it looked like there was just because obviously the two centre halves of the first half were both horrific. So I think when you saw Tav there, you saw a bit of composure. Because Proper and King were liability in that first half. And Tav came in, everything calmed down, everything was great, and we played. We won the second half 2-0. So I won't be surprised if he looks at Tav and says, you could do a job centre half. But I do think it will be your team, and I think I prefer your back four.
Okay.
But I was toying with the idea of Tav centre half, Aaron's right back, and Jigger left back.
Yeah, I mean, Jigga left back. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it won't happen down the line, but I think it's a real shot to the director's box if he plays Jigga at left back, kind of thing. Like, if do you know what I mean? I'm not against it. I just don't think. I think it's maybe too early for that. Midfield: Rothwell, Raskin, Diamande.
Yeah,
I
could
think.
maybe chuck Barami in there, but I'd go Raskin, Diamande, Rothwell.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think
I think.
Asgard's injuries made it quite easy.
Yeah, I think even if Asgard was fully fit, I think he'd be coming on maybe 60 minutes. Maybe if you're needing
Hmm.
something
Yeah.
a bit better and going forward. I think forwards are interesting because I've been of the opinion Curtis and Danilo are stick-ons. It's who plays in the right. And I mean, the chatter is obviously Gassama's probably not ready. I do think Dowell will play there. We
Listen,
saw
no
a
pace.
friendly played the friendly on Saturday, and Dowell was meant to be playing right, and I was of the opinion that's the team for Tuesday. Because why would you not play your team on Tuesday on a friendly on Saturday? Because that's the time to do it.
Kieran
Unless
Dowell
Dowell
in
has
the
been
big,
stinking, I think unless Dowell's been stinking, I'll be astonished if he's not there. To be honest,
Kieran Dowell in the big 2025 Standard Champions League qualifier. To me, I personally would play Cortez because I think he's very different from the rest of the team. He's a winger who likes to shoot. We don't have a lot of them. We've not
no,
really had a lot of them. Like Kent was never a big shot monster. We've never had a permanent. Obviously, Cherny and Seema, but they were loans. We haven't had a permanent winger who likes to shoot in years, and he's that.
no.
And to me, that is kind of what you need. And I think that's what. Apparently, he's been getting massive rave reviews in pre-season. Cortez as well. Like a lot of people, like apparently behind the scenes, he's been one that Martin's really taken to. Also, I thought we didn't really touch on him, but I think he was shafted by both Barry and Clement last season. Like he just came off a bad knee injury. Clement plays him every single pre-season, starts in first game of season Tynecastle, then he gets injured, and then he's on the bench as an unused sub, and then he starts to each game at Far Park. I think it's hooked at half time. Come back from injury. Barry calls him out in public, saying, "Oh, he's not training well enough." If Oscar Cortez is Scottish, Barry Finn does not call him out in the presser. I'm convinced by that.
Okay.
So I think he was very, very unfairly treated last season by both managers, and I think he just needs a refreshment. And I
Yeah,
think Russell Martin can be that. And
I hope so.
I'd play Cortez because you mentioned we've got no pace. He's our fastest player. They can start
I
because
also haven't really
I think
seen
having
him in the
Gasa,
right though. Haven't really seen him much in the right.
I think having Curtis can kind of switch
Yeah.
about. Actually, go on the right, he go on the left. Because that's how they started against Club Brugge.
Hmm.
Was Curtis was on the right and Cortez was on the left. So I'm surprised does that again.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, if Cortez is like fat and firing, I would play Cortez, and if you can do that, I just think I'm not necessarily. I'm just thinking that's going to be the team that played on Saturday,
Mm.
and we'll see what happens. Panathinaikos are an interesting one because I don't think they're world beaters, but
Huh?
a couple of decent players in their team. Like I've read a couple of things and watched a couple of things I can. I think they're dealing with a couple of injuries as well. I don't. Rangers' record in Europe would suggest that even though this is coming too soon, would still expect Rangers to still have enough here.
Yeah. We finished 16 points behind Olympiacos last season.
Yeah.
And that's Olympiacos team we drew one each way. And who were, I think, we were pretty even with over the course of the 90. And they were 16 points behind them. I know I don't like looking at that either. But it's a metric of what we played against compared to what we have essentially.
I'm not going to ask you I'm not going to ask you score predictions. I'm just going to. What are we looking for here? Like, if it's a 3-0 defeat, it might change a lot of things, but I just want to see what I saw against Bruges was one of the big takeaways I had for the Bruges game was I can see what he's trying to do here. Now I'm hoping Rangers can win the game, obviously, but if it's like a 1-1 draw and I see something, I'll be more than optimistic. Can I think?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of touched on this in the opener when you spoke about the league's more. I think we need to prioritise league this season. And I think the appointment of Russell Martin kind of shows the boulder in that as well.
Hmm.
Russell Martin's style is never really doesn't suit Europe to me. Like on the whole, I think you need to be more defensively sound in Europe, which his teams historically aren't they?
Hmm.
But to me, yeah, going into this game, I just want to see, I just want to be excited by something. Like I remember Mark. This is a blast for the past. Mark Webber's first friendly match, played Burnley at home,
Mm-hmm.
get beat 1-0. But a lot of folk came out of that thinking, we've got something here. So I mean, we played very well. That was Burnley who were Premier League at that point. We came off that game thinking, yeah, that we could do something here with this. We saw our style, we saw patterns of play. We looked like we were enjoying it. And that's kind of what I want from this game. And I got that. I kind of got that from the second half against Club Brugge,
I
and I
got it to
want
a
it
degree
more
in
in
the
this
first
game.
half. I got it to a degree in the first half because yes, it was always weaknesses of. I mean, the defence was shambolic,
Oh, embarrassment.
but I also saw enough to go, particularly in kind of midfield. I can't remember who played in midfield that day.
Raskin, Barron,
Raskin,
someone else. Bill.
Barron in particular. I was like, I can sort of see what you're being told to do.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought last season with Barron was, I don't necessarily think you've been told to do anything. I think you're just a body at the moment. And then in the second half, like Diamandi came in, I said about the half turn and the way he kind of sets up the second goal. And by Rami, you just saw immediately that he's been told press, press, press. And Rangers don't have that.
No.
It's the reason Maeda is lauded as this amazing player because he's very good at pressing, and Scottish football doesn't have many of them. Like, if you can get a presser who's good technically, I think Rangers are onto something. It's just as this game too early. Like, I'm glad the first leg's at home. I think that sets a marker.
Yeah. I think
And
it's easier. I think it's better for the tie if we're away first, but I think it's better for the season if we're at home first, if that makes sense.
yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I know I don't seem it, but I'm pretty optimistic. It's like a 1-0, 2-0 or something like that. I'm not sure.
I'd be stunned if we kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, possibly
I was
2-1 then.
thinking I was thinking 3-1
Woofed.
or something mental like 4-2, some fun.
Okay. Well, here's hoping we're in for a fun game. We will be back next week to cover the Panathinaikos game and look ahead to the return leg in Greece. Mate, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Nah, it's always a pleasure. George, top of
Thank you
Rangers.
very
First
much.
time ever.
And we will see you all soon.